They say architecture is about creating spaces that tell stories. I never imagined my personal life would become the most dramatic blueprint I'd ever be forced to design. My name is Declan Hayes. At 35, I am a lead architect at Strathmore and Associates, one of Boston's most prestigious firms. I've designed sleek corporate headquarters and award-winning residential complexes. Structure, precision, transparency. These aren't just principles I apply to my work. They are the very foundation of how I've always approached my life. Then Serena Vance walked into my world and redesigned everything. I met her at a charity gala 2 years ago. She was 32, a junior lawyer at Caldwell and Pierce, ambitious and captivating. Her laugh could fill a room, and her mind was as sharp as the tailored suits she wore to court. Within minutes of meeting her, I found myself sketching her profile on a cocktail napkin, the perfect curve of her smile, the determined set of her jaw. I still have that napkin tucked away in my desk drawer, a blueprint of the moment my life's trajectory shifted. For the first year and a half, we existed in separate, meticulously designed spaces. Her downtown apartment, my converted warehouse loft in the Arts District. The loft was my masterpiece, a space I had designed and renovated myself. Every exposed steel beam, every polished concrete wall, every window placement had been meticulously planned to capture the shifting light of the Boston skyline. It was my sanctuary, a physical manifestation of my soul. When Serena first saw it, she gasped, "Declan, this is incredible. You designed all of this." "Every inch," I said, watching her explore with an obvious, almost childlike delight. "I could never live in a space like this," she remarked then, running her hand along a custom-built bookshelf. "It's too perfect. I'd be afraid to mess it up." 6 months before the incident in Hawaii, that fear apparently vanished. After a particularly romantic weekend in Vermont, Serena suggested moving in together. It made financial sense. Her rent had just increased, and she was already spending most nights at my place anyway. "Are you sure?" I'd asked, smiling. "You said you'd be afraid to mess up my perfect space." Serena laughed, kissing me softly. That was before I realized I wanted to be a permanent part of that space. Within a month, she had sold most of her furniture, too traditional, she called it, and moved into my loft. I cleared half my closet, rearranged my home office to make room for her formidable collection of law books, and watched as she placed small touches of herself throughout my carefully designed world. I didn't mind. I thought we were building something together, a new blueprint for our shared life. That was before last Friday evening, when she took a sledgehammer to the foundation of everything I thought we had. I was at my drafting table, reviewing plans for a new sustainable office complex, when Serena burst through the door. Her energy always preceded her, like a gust of wind that rearranged papers and thoughts alike. "Declan, you won't believe what happened today." She dropped her designer bag on our leather sofa and headed straight for the wine rack. I noticed she picked the expensive Cabernet we'd been saving for a special occasion. "Must be good news," I said, carefully rolling up my blueprints. Serena had a habit of gesturing wildly when excited, and I'd learned long ago to protect my work from her enthusiastic storms. "The best," she said, pouring a generous glass. "I'm going to Hawaii next week." I looked up, setting my pencil down. The statement felt out of place, a detail that didn't fit the overall design. Hawaii? What for? A legal conference in Maui. 5 days at the Royal Lahaina Resort. She took a long sip of wine, her lipstick leaving a perfect crimson imprint on the glass. "All expenses paid by the firm." "That's sudden. You never mentioned any conference before." Serena waved her hand dismissively. "It just came up today. Alistair pulled me into his office after the Henderson meeting and told me he wanted me to go with him." Alistair. The name hung in the air like cigarette smoke. Alistair Finch, a recently divorced senior partner at her firm, 40-something with a reputation for blurring professional boundaries. According to Serena's own previous stories, he had a habit of standing too close during conversations and scheduling one-on-one career development dinners. "Just you and Alistair?" I kept my voice even, though I could feel the tension creeping into my shoulders, a structural stress I hadn't anticipated. "It's a huge opportunity, Declan." She kicked off her heels and curled up on the sofa. "He's introducing me to the Thompson clients. You know how long I've been trying to get on that account." I set my drafting tools aside and turned to face her fully. "Is the whole legal team going?" "No, just us." She frowned slightly. "Why does that matter?" "It matters because it sounds less like a conference and more like a vacation with your boss. 5 days in Maui, at a resort." Serena's expression hardened, It's a legitimate business trip. The conference is about international property law. Alistair specifically selected me because of my research on the Nakamura case. The same Alistair who told you that you have bedroom eyes at the Christmas party? I couldn't keep the sharp edge from my voice. God, Declan, that was months ago, and he was drunk. He apologized the next day. She stood up and began pacing, a habit she had when preparing arguments in her head. This is about my career. Do you have any idea how important this connection could be? I understand career opportunities. What I don't understand is why you're only telling me now about a trip that happens next week. Or why it has to be just you, and a man who's made it clear he's interested in more than your legal expertise. And Serena stopped pacing and placed her wine glass down with a sharp clink. Are you seriously doing this right now? I came home excited to share good news, and you're turning it into some kind of interrogation. I'm just asking reasonable questions, I said, standing up as well. The space between us suddenly felt vast. The situation doesn't add up. What doesn't add up is your reaction. I thought you'd be happy for me. Oh, what? Happy about you spending 5 days in paradise with a guy who's been trying to get into your pants since you joined the firm? Her eyes flashed. That's completely unprofessional and unfair. Alistair is my mentor. Mentors don't need tropical getaways to offer career advice. It's a conference with workshops and networking events. Then show me the conference schedule, I interrupted. Show me the event website, the registration confirmation, anything. And third. Serena crossed her arms, her posture defensive. I don't have to prove anything to you. This is exactly why I hesitated to tell you. I knew you'd overreact. So you admit you were hiding it. I wasn't hiding anything. I'm telling you now, aren't I? I took a deep breath, trying to approach this logically, like a structural engineer diagnosing a fault. Serena, put yourself in my position. If I told you I was going to Hawaii alone with Rowan from my office, Rowan, who's always texting you about urgent design questions at 11 p.m., Serena interrupted. Exactly. You'd have concerns too. That's different. How? Because I trust you, and I've always trusted you. But this situation feels off, and you're getting defensive instead of addressing my concerns. Her face flushed with anger. I'm getting defensive because you're accusing me of something inappropriate when this is a legitimate professional opportunity. I walked over to the kitchen island, needing some physical space between us. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm saying I'm uncomfortable with the situation. There's a difference. Well, I'm going, she declared, her chin raised in defiance. This is too important for my career. Oh, I looked at her for a long moment, at the determined set of her jaw I had once sketched on a napkin, at the flash in her eyes that I had once found so captivating. As your partner, I'm asking you not to go. I'm telling you, I'm not comfortable with this arrangement. Her laugh was sharp and humorless. You're asking me? You're telling me? Oh, I'm not your property, Declan. I'm a grown woman who makes her own decisions. Those words hit me like a physical blow, not because they were harsh, but because they revealed a fundamental, irreparable flaw in our structure. She saw my concern as control, not care. She saw my plea for trust as an assertion of ownership. I looked around the loft, my loft, at the space I had created and then willingly shared, at the kitchen where we cooked Sunday brunches, at the skylight I'd installed because she once mentioned loving to fall asleep watching the stars, at the home I'd built that she was now treating like a hotel, a convenient base of operations. You're right, I said finally, my voice cool and detached, the emotional blueprints already being rolled up and put away. You're not my property. I paused, the architect in me appreciating the structural symmetry of what I was about to say. And I'm not your landlord. Serena rolled her eyes, clearly missing the significance. Don't be dramatic. This trip is happening, and I need you to support me. When do you leave? I asked, already mentally designing a new blueprint for my life, one that wouldn't include her. Tuesday morning. I'll be back Sunday night. I nodded, turning back to my drafting table. I hope it's everything you're expecting. Serena seemed thrown by my sudden calm. She hovered uncertainly for a moment, perhaps waiting for more argument, before announcing she was going to take a shower. As the bathroom door closed and the sound of running water filled the silence, I pulled out my phone. I didn't call my mother or a friend. I called Marcus Thorne, my attorney. Declan, it's nearly 8 p.m. on a Friday. This better be good, he answered, his voice weary. I need your help with something, I said quietly, my own voice steady as a steel beam. How quickly can you draw up an eviction notice? There was a stunned silence on the other end. Eviction? What the hell happened? I gave him the condensed version of the evening's events. When I finished, Marcus whistled low. You sure about this? 2 years is a long time to throw away over a suspicious trip. It's not about the trip, Marcus, I explained, my resolve hardening with every word. It's about the complete dismissal of my concerns. The immediate leap to, I'm not your property, when I express legitimate worries. It's about the lies. The foundation is compromised. Oaks, and you're certain she's lying about this conference? Not certain, no, but certain enough that I'm not willing to bet my life structure on it. Marcus was silent for a moment. Okay, I can have something for you Monday morning. But Declan, as your friend, not just your attorney, sleep on this. Make sure it's what you really want. I appreciate the concern, I told him. But some demolition projects don't need a second opinion. Oh. The weekend passed in an atmosphere of artificial normality. Serena, seemingly believing our argument was over and that I had accepted her trip, spent Saturday shopping for new clothes, appropriate for a professional conference in a tropical setting, which apparently included 3 new bikinis and a backless dress that cost more than my first drafting table. On Sunday, a new tension emerged. Her phone rang during breakfast. She glanced at the screen, saw the name Alistair Finch, and quickly silenced it. Who was that? I asked casually. No one important, she replied too quickly. Just work stuff. 5 minutes later, her phone buzzed with a text. Serena read it, then excused herself to the bathroom. I didn't need to check her phone. I wasn't that person. But the lie was as clear and stark as a chalk line on concrete. That evening, she packed while I pretended to work on my designs. I watched from the corner of my eye as she slipped a small bag of new lingerie into her suitcase, items I had never seen before. Need any help? I asked, testing the waters one last time. No, she said sharply, then softened her tone. I mean, no thank you. I've got it under control. I smiled, a thin, meaningless gesture. I helped her finish packing. On Tuesday morning, I even drove her to Logan Airport. I kissed her goodbye and told her, have a productive conference. If she noticed the Arctic coldness behind my eyes, she gave no sign. As soon as her plane was in the air, I went to work. The demolition had begun. I called Marcus, who had the papers ready. Since Serena had never signed a lease agreement and contributed nothing to the mortgage, her legal claim to residence was minimal. The document gave her 30 days to vacate, more than generous under Massachusetts law. By Thursday morning, I had a plan in place. The movers would arrive at 10 to pack Serena's things into boxes. Marcus would deliver the legal papers that afternoon. Everything would be organized, clean, and efficient before her return on Sunday. What I didn't plan for was the doorbell ringing at 7 a.m. I opened the door to find Bryn Vance, Serena's sister, standing there with a stony expression. Bryn and I had always gotten along well. Unlike her sister, she was straightforward to a fault, a surgeon, with no patience for deception or drama. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the loft. This is early even for you, I said, closing the door. Coffee? Number? I just need 5 minutes. She turned to face me, her arms crossed. Serena called me last night from Hawaii. Did she now? And what did she say? That you two had a fight about her trip, but that everything was fine. She wanted me to check on you, make sure you weren't sulking. Bryn's expression was unreadable. But that's not why I'm here. I waited. My curiosity piqued. I saw them, Declan, at the resort. She took a breath. I'm attending a medical conference in Honolulu, and I decided to island hop for the weekend. Thought I'd surprise my sister at her legal conference. She made air quotes around the words. Imagine my surprise when I found her and Alistair at a couple's massage. 05. I felt a strange sense of vindication mixed with genuine sympathy for Bryn, who looked both angry and hurt. Did she see you? Number I left before they noticed me. Then I changed my flight to come back early. Bryn shook her head, her disgust palpable. She's been lying to me too. Said she got the Thompson account because of her work on the Nakamura case. But yesterday, I ran into Bill Thompson at my hospital's fundraiser. He had no idea who Serena was. Oh, I'm sorry, Bryn, I said, and I meant it. Don't be. Serena has been like this since we were kids. Always taking shortcuts. Always manipulating situations to get what she wants. She looked around the loft, her gaze landing on me. So what are you going to do? She's moving out, I said simply. I've already arranged everything. Bryn nodded, unsurprised. Good, you deserve better. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small flash drive. This has photos I took at the resort, just in case she tries to deny everything. She placed it on the counter. I love my sister, but I hate what she does to people who care about her. After Bryn left, I sat with the flash drive for a long time, turning it over in my hands. I didn't need more evidence. I didn't need more pain, but I pocketed it anyway. Another brick in the wall of certainty I was building around my decision. By Thursday afternoon, the movers had finished. Serena's possessions were neatly boxed and stored in the guest room. I spent the evening preparing a folder with apartment listings in her price range and the contact information for a good realtor I knew. The eviction notice was displayed prominently on the kitchen counter, alongside a brief, courteous letter explaining that our living arrangement and our relationship had reached its natural conclusion. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I called Amanda, Serena's friend from work. "Declan, is everything okay?" she answered, surprised. We weren't close. She was firmly Serena's friend. "Everything's fine," I assured her. "I just had a quick question about this conference Serena's attending." "Conference?" Amanda sounded genuinely confused. "What conference?" A cold certainty settled in my stomach. The legal conference in Maui, the one she left for on Tuesday. There was a pause. "Declan, Alistair announced last week that he and Serena would be taking vacation days after closing the Henderson case. There's no conference that I know of." "I see," I said, my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. Amanda hesitated. "Look, there have been rumors about them for months. I didn't want to get involved. But if Serena told you she was at a conference..." "How long have the rumors been going on?" I pressed. She sighed. "Since the Christmas party, at least. Maybe before." "I'm sorry, Declan. I thought you might have known." "I suspected something was off," I said, "but I didn't know it had been going on that long." "What are you going to do?" Amanda asked, her voice filled with concern. "I already did it. She'll be looking for a new place to live when she gets back." After hanging up, I made one final call to the Royal Lahaina Resort in Maui. A friendly receptionist confirmed they were not hosting any legal conferences that week. But they did have an Alistair Finch registered as a guest in a beachfront suite. "And is there a second guest registered in that suite?" I asked, my voice neutral. "Yes, sir, there is," the receptionist confirmed. "Thank you," I said, hanging up before she could ask if I wanted to be connected. That was all the verification I needed. The blueprint of her deceit was complete, down to the last detail. The rest of the week, I received occasional texts from Serena. Beach selfies carefully angled to not show who was beside her, complaints about boring presentations, without any specific details, and one drunken late-night message about missing me, sent at 1 a.m. Hawaii time, hours after any legitimate conference event would have concluded. I responded politely but briefly. The architect in me knew that sometimes you need to allow for demolition before you can begin to rebuild. On Friday night, I received an unexpected visitor. The doorbell rang around 9 p.m., and when I opened it, Rowan Clark, my colleague from the office, stood there holding a stack of blueprints. "I know it's late," she said apologetically, "but you mentioned wanting to see the Hamilton project revisions before Monday, and I finally finished them." I invited her in, grateful for the distraction. Rowan was a brilliant structural engineer, direct in her communication, and yes, occasionally prone to late-night texts about work. Serena had always been jealous of her, though I'd never given her a reason to be. We settled at my drafting table with glasses of whiskey, reviewing her excellent revisions. The conversation flowed easily from work to architectural theory to our shared love of vintage mechanical pencils. It was refreshing talking to someone who understood my passion, who didn't roll her eyes when I got excited about cantilevers or load-bearing innovations. "This place is amazing," Rowan commented, looking around the loft. She gestured to the boxes visible in the guest room. "Moving some things around?" I hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Serena's moving out, actually. We're done." Rowan's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." "No one does yet. It's recent." And then, I found myself telling her everything. The fake conference, the dismissal of my concerns, the "I'm not your property" declaration. Rowan listened without interruption, her expression shifting from surprise to indignation to understanding. "You know what the worst part is?" I concluded. "I would have supported her career ambitions if she'd been honest. But she chose deception, then made me the villain when I questioned it." Rowan nodded slowly. "You deserve better than that, Declan. Someone who respects your boundaries." Asking for that isn't asking for ownership. It's asking for basic decency. We talked for hours. There was no flirtation, no inappropriate undercurrent, just two colleagues becoming friends through shared experience and mutual respect. When she finally left around midnight, I felt lighter than I had in days. I had been reminded that healthy communication was possible, that not everyone saw boundaries as chains. The weekend brought one more surprise. On Saturday morning, my doorbell rang again. This time, it was Spencer Grant, Serena's ex-boyfriend. I'd only met him once, briefly, a year into my relationship with Serena. "Can I come in? I think we need to talk," he said, looking uncomfortable but determined. I let him in, baffled. "I saw Serena's social media post from Hawaii," he began without preamble. "With Alistair Finch, and I thought you should know she was seeing him while we were still together. It's why we broke up." End of. I stared at him. "That was over 2 years ago." Spencer nodded. "Yeah. I found out she was sleeping with him to get ahead at her old firm. When I confronted her, she gave me the whole 'I'm not your property' speech and walked out." The parallel was so exact, it was almost comical in its tragedy. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I saw your comment on her beach photo. Hope the conference is productive." "There is no conference, man. I thought you should know what you're dealing with." I wish someone had told me. After Spencer left, I sat in silence for a long time. Serena's behavior wasn't a mistake or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a calculated pattern, a faulty design she'd been repeating for years. My decision was no longer just justified. It was an act of architectural preservation for myself. Sunday evening arrived like a storm front. I heard Serena's key in the lock around 8 p.m. "Declan?" she called out as she entered, her voice carrying that particular tone of forced casualness that suggests someone with something to hide. "In the kitchen," I answered, my voice even. She appeared in the doorway, suntanned and slightly disheveled from travel. She wore new earrings I hadn't seen before, small pearl studs that looked expensive. "Hey," she said, dropping her bags. "The flight was absolute hell." I nodded, staying seated at the kitchen island. "There's coffee if you want some." She hesitated, perhaps sensing the new, rigid geometry in my demeanor. "Thanks, but I'm exhausted. I think I'll just take a shower and crash." She stepped forward as if to kiss me, but I turned slightly away, reaching for my mug. She paused, then continued, launching into her prepared script. "The conference was amazing, by the way. I made so many contacts. Alistair introduced me to the senior counsel at Thompson Industries, and they're interested in having me work directly on their next acquisition." "Congratulations," I said, my voice flat. "That sounds like exactly what you were hoping for." Serena smiled, relieved at what she perceived as my acceptance. "It really was worth it. I know you had concerns, but it was completely professional." "I'm sure it was." I gestured to the counter where the documents waited. "There's something you need to see." Her eyes followed my hand, her expression changing from relief to confusion as she registered the official-looking papers. "What's this?" "Legal notice. You have 30 days to find new accommodations." She blinked rapidly, as if the words were an optical illusion she couldn't process. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No joke. I've taken the liberty of gathering some apartment listings that might suit your needs. There's also the card for an excellent realtor." Serena snatched up the papers, her eyes scanning them with the rapid efficiency of a lawyer. "You're evicting me? You can't be serious." "Your things are packed and in the guest room. I've been very careful with them." She looked up from the papers, her face flushing with anger. "This is insane. You can't just throw me out because we had a fight." "This isn't about a fight, Serena. This is about a fundamental incompatibility in our design. It's about how we view a relationship." "What are you talking about? Because I went on a business trip?" I stood up, my height advantage for once feeling like a necessary fortification. "Because when I expressed legitimate concerns, you dismissed them entirely. Because you framed my caring about our boundaries as me treating you like property. Because you prioritized a questionable opportunity over our relationship's trust." There was nothing questionable about it. Her voice rose. "It was a legitimate conference." "Was it?" "Because I called the Royal Lahaina Resort. They weren't hosting a legal conference this week. Not on international property law, not on anything." Serena's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since I'd known her, the brilliant lawyer was at a loss for words. "I also spoke with your colleague Amanda," I continued calmly. "She was surprised to hear you were at a conference, Since Alistair told everyone at the office you two were using vacation days for a well-deserved break. You checked up on me? She finally managed, outrage replacing shock. You spied on me? Number, I verified facts after you lied. There's a difference. Nothing happened with Alistair, she protested, but her eyes shifted away, a tell I'd noticed early in our relationship whenever she bent the truth. Really? Then explain these. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photos from the flash drive Bryn had given me. Then I switched to the photos from our shared cloud account. A service she'd apparently forgotten automatically uploaded her pictures. There were dozens from Hawaii, Serena and Alistair lounging on the beach, drinking at sunset, and one particularly damning image of them kissing in what was clearly a hotel corridor. Serena's face drained of color. You went through my private photos. That's an invasion of privacy. Shared cloud account. You set it up yourself so we could exchange vacation pictures. But honestly, the photos just confirm what I already knew. The betrayal happened when you lied to my face, not when you slept with him. You bastard, she hissed, tears forming in her eyes. You set me up. You acted like everything was fine. And you acted like you were going to a conference. I guess we're both good at pretending. Her strategy shifted. Her shoulders slumped, and her eyes welled with genuine-looking tears. Declan, please. I know I messed up, but you can't just throw away 2 years over one mistake. One mistake. Let's count, shall we? I ticked them off on my fingers. 1. Lying about the conference. 2. Gaslighting me when I expressed concerns. 3. Using the I'm not your property line to deflect. 4. Continuing the lie with fake updates. 5. Coming home and lying again right to my face. I paused. Oh, and I forgot number 6. The diamond bracelet Alistair bought you 2 months ago. The one you hid in the back of your closet. She froze. How did you? The movers found it. And then there's Spencer Grant. He stopped by yesterday. Seems you have a pattern, Serena. Same affair, same excuses, same I'm not your property speech when you get caught. Spencer is a liar, she shot back. He was controlling and jealous. Was he? Or was he just asking reasonable questions like I did? She stepped back, visibly calculating her next move. So that's it? 2 years together and you're just done? No chance to make amends? No couples therapy? Some betrayals can't be undone, Serena. Trust is like a structural beam in a building. Once it's compromised, the entire structure is unsafe. Stop with the architectural metaphors, she shouted, slamming her hand on the counter. This is our life, not one of your precious buildings. You're right, I said quietly. Buildings are honest. They don't pretend to be something they're not. Her expression morphed from anger to calculation. I could almost see the lawyer in her forming strategies. You know, I could fight this eviction, she said finally. I could claim tenant rights, drag this out for months. You could try, I replied, my calm unshakable. But as your lawyer would tell you, without a lease agreement or proof of rent payments, you'd lose. And it would only mean more billable hours for Marcus. She tried another tack, her voice softening. Declan, please. I made a terrible mistake. I got caught up in the attention. Alistair means nothing to me. I love you. Only you. She reached for my face, but I stepped back. It's too late, Serena. She spent the next hour cycling through every emotion. Anger, bargaining, tears, threats. Through it all, I remained calm. A silent, immovable structure against her emotional storm. Eventually, exhausted, she grabbed her purse and the folder of apartment listings. I'm staying at Amanda's tonight, she said, her voice raw. This isn't over. She stopped at the door, her eyes red, rimmed. You're going to regret this, Declan. No one will ever love you the way I do. I nodded but offered no response. As an architect, I knew that sometimes the most eloquent statement is simply empty space. After she left, the loft was quiet. It felt different already, larger, emptier, but somehow more honest. The next morning, I woke to a barrage of texts from Serena, alternating between apologies and accusations. I responded only to the practical questions about her belongings. Around noon, my phone rang with an unknown number. Is this Declan Hayes? A male voice asked. Speaking. This is Alistair Finch. I think we need to talk. About what, exactly? I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. Serena is devastated. She told me what happened, he said, his voice carrying that practiced authority lawyers use to intimidate. Don't you think you're overreacting? Overreacting would have been changing the locks while she was gone, I replied coolly. Overreacting would have been throwing her things on the street. I gave her 30 days notice, which is more than generous. Look, what happened in Hawaii? Stop, I cut him off. I don't need or want the details. This isn't about jealousy. Then what is it about? He asked, sounding genuinely confused. Respect, honesty, trust. All the things that were missing when Serena dismissed my concerns and lied to my face. There was a pause. Then his voice lowered to a conspiratorial tone. Between us men, she can be emotional, but she really does care about you. I almost laughed at the absurdity. She cares so much that she lied about your conference and tried to make me feel controlling for questioning it. That's not care. That's manipulation. You're making a mistake, Alistair warned, his tone shifting. Serena has a promising future at our firm. I'd hate to see this personal situation affect your professional relationships. Is that a threat? A friendly warning. My firm works with several developers who use your architectural services. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. Let me offer you a friendly warning in return, Alistair. Strathmore & Associates has an exclusive contract with Blackridge Development, your firm's biggest client. I've been golfing with Thomas Blackridge monthly for years, and Thomas is very traditional about certain things, like married senior partners taking junior associates to Hawaii under false pretenses. The silence that followed was deeply satisfying. This conversation never happened, Alistair finally said, his voice tight. Agreed. Goodbye, Alistair. The most dramatic confrontation came a week later. I was representing my firm at a major charity gala. Serena appeared, clearly having been drinking, and approached me while I was in conversation with potential clients. So, this is where you've been hiding? She said loudly, causing several heads to turn. Emily, this isn't the place, I said quietly, guiding her toward a quieter corner. When is the place, Declan? You won't answer my calls. Her voice carried. You think you're so perfect, so morally superior. Did you tell your fancy friends how you invaded my privacy? By now, several colleagues were openly watching. Thomas Blackridge himself approached. Everything all right here, Declan? Everything's fine, Thomas. Serena was just leaving. I'm not going anywhere, she insisted, grabbing my arm. I lost my job because of you. Alistair put me on probation after your threats. I made no threats, I corrected her calmly. I simply reminded him of potential consequences for his actions. Just as two security guards appeared, her anger collapsed into despair. I loved you, Declan. I really did. For the first time, I believed her. It was a broken, selfish kind of love, but love nonetheless. I know, I said simply, but sometimes love isn't enough. As they escorted her out, Thomas shook his head. You handled that with remarkable composure. Losing my cool wouldn't solve anything, I said. It never does. End of. Her final, desperate attack came at my office. She burst into a meeting with new clients, claiming there was a flood at the loft. I calmly dismantled her lie by showing my phone, with no missed calls from the building manager. Defeated, she whispered. I don't know how to fix this. There's nothing to fix, I replied gently. It's over, Serena. Please accept that. She finally left. The clients, a shrewd older woman named Margaret, looked at me. My ex-husband was a cheater. I recognize the behaviors. You made the right call, and you handled it with dignity. That tells me all I need to know about your character. We won the contract. A week later, Serena sent a truck and 2 friends to move her things. She didn't come herself. When I returned home that evening, her keys were on the kitchen counter alongside a note. You'll realize what you threw away someday. I placed the note in the recycling bin. Then I opened a beer, sat at my drafting table, and began sketching preliminary plans for renovating the loft. The guest room would make an excellent home gym. The closet she had used could be converted into storage for my architecture books. The structure was sound again. 3 months passed. It was a rainy Thursday evening, and I was working late on a new community arts center design when my doorbell rang. Opening the door, I found Serena standing there, soaked from the downpour, makeup running down her face. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice trembling. Please. Against my better judgment, I let her in. The loft was different now. New furniture, rearranged spaces. The guest room was now my home office. Her eyes lingered on a woman's jacket hanging by the door. Rovens. You're seeing someone, she stated flatly. That's not why you're here. She took a deep breath. I came to give you this. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for a substantial amount. It's for the time I lived here. Rent, utilities, everything. I looked at her, confused. Why now? Because you were right, she said quietly. About everything. Alistair was using me. The moment I stopped being useful, he discarded me. Her laugh was bitter. Sound familiar? I didn't discard you, Serena. I enforced boundaries you refused to respect. She nodded, tears forming. I know that now. Therapy is illuminating. She glanced at Rowan's jacket again. Is it serious? Yes. Is she good to you? She respects me, I said. And I respect her. Serena nodded again, wiping her eyes. I'm glad. I mean that. She moved toward the door, then paused. I really did love you, Declan. Just not in the right way. I know, I replied. I hope you find what you're looking for, Serena. After she left, I looked at the check for a long moment before tearing it in half and letting the pieces fall into the recycling bin. Some debts couldn't be paid with money, and some lessons were worth the price. I walked to the large windows overlooking the city. The rain had stopped, and the lights of Boston glittered against the dark sky. The loft was quiet, filled with an honest, empty space that was now ripe with possibility. I had demolished a compromised structure and cleared the site. Now, with a new blueprint in hand, I was ready to build again.